Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. And in this video, basically I'm going to be explaining how the guard mechanic works. So guard is, I think, everyone's favorite mechanic, or at least one of them, alongside damage reduction, alongside evasion. It's one of the three main utility-based defense mechanics. Guard is something when people see it, they immediately feel quite favorable about a unit, and most units have guard, but conditionally, due to the fact that it is quite a strong ability that scales very well throughout the duration of the game. And before I get into explaining how guard works, I just want to explain exactly what guard does. So guard essentially removes any type disadvantages. It will then give you automatic type advantage over damage being done to you, and will also remove any class disadvantages and give you class advantage over damage that's being done to you. So for example, when you take a look at this Super Saiyan God Vegeta and Super Saiyan Trunks, if they were hit by a physical attack, they would take a very large amount of damage, but because they have guard, it's treated as if they're a strength type unit taking that attack, and this obviously incredibly improves their defensive performance. Now guard is not a all-in-one beating mechanic. If your defense is low, you can still take quite a large amount of damage from normals, but what guard does do is guard dramatically reduces the amount of high scale damage. The calculation for the reduction of damage that guard does occurs at the end of the damage calculation. Now, to cut it simply, the simplest form of calculation is 100,000 as an attack against a unit with 50,000 defense usually means that unit will take 50,000 damage. If that unit has guard active, that unit will take 25,000 instead. And this is basically the simple premise behind it. It will halve basically the damage, or the final damage calculation that occurs after defense. What it also does is it reduces the different class typings. So for example, extreme class units deal more damage to super units, and super units deal more damage to extreme class units. And this is a great way to look at things. We're going to look at a physical example here. We have Gohan with 266,000 defense. That's the AGL Gohan at the end of the rotation, just to clarify, because there's quite a few Gohans and Gokus and things going on here. But we have Gohan with 266,000 defense at the end of the rotation. Gohan will fire off his super. This will increase his defense to roughly around 300k. And you're going to see Gohan take a significant component of damage from this. Gohan's going to take around 200,000 because Metal Core Cooler hits at around 500 or so. Okay, so that's just so we can do some maths. Gohan does not have guard active. Gohan is a type neutral unit, and Gohan will take around 200k defense. Damage from this attack from Metal Core Cooler after he supers. So you can see here, he didn't super, which is why he took 228k. So Metal Core Cooler hits around 480k. So Gohan did not have type advantage, he did not have guard active, he did not have anything like that. That was a purely neutral attack. He also didn't have disadvantage or anything like that. So if we look at the numbers, Metal Core Cooler hits at 480k. Metal Core Cooler has a slight advantage because of his extreme against super advantage, but to make it simple, 480 less the 266 of Gohan gives us our 214 or so thousand damage that we took. Now if we had guard active, the very interesting thing here is that we would have only taken 110k damage, which obviously, in theory seems like it's a lot, Cole, that's still quite a lot of damage, but it's a dramatic reduction. What it also means is that any defense we do add onto Gohan is effectively doubled. So for example, if we add another 50k defense onto Gohan, and we make him 310,000 defense, which you'll see just now, That means that instead of taking 170k, he will instead take 85k, which is a dramatic reduction from what he was taking before. And this is just a very simple premise for understanding the concept of God and where it comes into the kind of calculation for, damage reduction capabilities. And you're going to see this. We'll have Gohan back on rotation. We're going to give him guard through his active skill. And with this, we're going to be able to see just how much damage he takes. Now, the reason why this is important to understand is it will explain to you why units that have guard can look so good. And the reason is they can dramatically reduce high levels of damage even if their defense is low. So for example, when a unit does damage reduction, this applies to the defense before the type multipliers. So for example, if a unit has a 50k defense, but it is taking a 800k 1000 type advantage super, that's going to be treated like 1.2 million, and that 1.2 million then gets reduced by a damage reduction of 50% to 600k. That 600k less their 50k equals 550k. I know this sounds like a lot, but hey, just bear with me. And then, here we go. Here we can see Gohan, by the way. Let's just use his active skill. Great active skill, by the way. I really do love his active skill. But the same principle occurs for a unit with guard. 800,000 less the defense, applying the guard multiplier means that essentially they run with a much higher level of defense than most of the units. Here we can see Gohan, and we're just going to look at his defense, 312,000. So that's that extra 50k that I was talking about. You should see him take around 60k from this attack, or 15k. So there we go. You can obviously see that there was quite a dramatic reduction in the amount of damage that he took. And this is because as a unit, units tend to dramatically reduce the amount of damage that they take with guard, because of the fact that it occurs at the end of the calculation spectrum. It's very, very, very solid, and because of the true guard capabilities of the passive, it reduces the damage quite significantly. So I think that leaves us in a good place with understanding how guard works, and it's a very simple premise as to why it's such a strong and potent mechanic. It basically multiplies your defense effectively, by effectively 2 every time you gain defense, which is very, very good because of where it occurs in the damage calculation. And this makes it very strong against super-based attacks, but it can mean that units with guard still need some modicum level of defense to look good. Units that have guard and damage reduction, those units now tend to look very, very strong. But generally speaking, if you just have guard, you do need the ability to have decent defense. Because without decent defense, you are going to be in a situation where you're not going to be able to withstand the damage beforehand. So if you've only got 10k defense, but you are taking a million in terms of damage, that will still reduce to under 500,000. But it's still going to hit you very, very hard. So you do want to have some level of defense on your guard units, and that's why a lot of these units that have conditional guard, generally speaking, it becomes a bit difficult to rely on them, because when their guard does not proc, their defense is usually not at an adequate point, and they can take a lot of damage. But I hope this helped. Let me know what you think, and bye.